Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Board Masters with me, Chris Mullins, and today I'm going to be talking about CoraQuest again and following on from my last video where I ranked all the heroes in terms of how useful they are in my opinion. Today I wanted to rank my top 5 favourite quests, and it was trickier than I thought, to be honest. I think for number 5 I went with the Great Teapot Caper, number 3 in there. And this was probably the hardest one because there's a few that are very, very similar. And generally the highest rated ones have very different mechanics that aren't across other ones. Whereas this one has many of the same mechanics of the other one. The little wrinkle that makes it a bit more interesting for me is that on this one, Wizard Pebble Dash's kettle has been broken by Kevin the Gnome, always causing trouble. And you have to go into the dungeon to buy one. And you basically have to earn 30 gold. So you have to go around the dungeon, looting as many chests as you can, getting the items. Each item will have a coin value on it. And you have to keep going until you get up to 30 coins and then return back to Morag, who was the person selling the teapot, which is another little twist that I like because a lot of them, once you've sort of killed all the enemies, that's it. Whereas ones where you have to get back somewhere just adds another little wrinkle and brings in more chance of the spiders because when you're returning back, you're less likely to be exploring, and then you have that moment when a horde of spiders appears and starts chasing you, and that's always good fun. So that one snuck in at number 5, the Great Teapot Caper. Number 4, I'm going to go with the first one in the book, and that's Fangs for the Memories. And this one doesn't really get in on the strengths of his mechanics. It maybe just benefits on the fact that it's the first one. It's one of only 2 scenarios in the book that we failed, and it's the only one that we died on. The other one we failed, Alex actually rage quit. And this is often everyone I've spoken to who's played CoraQuest, I think to a person, every one of them has said they died on Fangs for the Memories. And as such, it's just a great introduction to the game, and you learn a few tricks that will carry you through the vast majority of the scenarios in terms of never exploring on the last character. Well, if you're 3rd or 4th character of the round, generally only explore more than one tile if the first tile has no enemies on it, for example. Whereas the first time you play it, you're all charging off. Yeah, I want to explore. I'm the last. I'm going to explore, and then a horde of orcs comes in and you're getting smashed up and you crawl to the snake. And on our first playthrough we had the snake down to 1 point of health, but Robo Kettle died on me through the poison on the last go, where I was just about to, well, we would have had a full round to take that 1 point of health, so we would have killed it, but the poison came in. And I suppose that is a slightly different mechanic because the poison is only involved when the giant snake is, and I think this is one of only 2 scenarios when that's the case. But yeah, it feels like it's a harder mission, probably because it's the first one and it teaches you everything, but it definitely stands out for me on that regard. Number 3 is the tap dancing one. A little bit of tap dancing, which I think is number 7 in the book. Forgive me if I'm sniffling. Hay fever has kicked in this time of year, so please bear with me for that. And this one is completely different to everything else in the book. This one, the dungeon is flooding, and basically you are against the clock. So you have a certain number of turns where you have to get in, turn all the taps off, and if you do that, then you save the dungeon, you stopped it flooding, and you win. And every time you stop a tap, then the threat goes up a couple of notches, so it gives you a bit more time. But this is the one Alex rage quit on, actually, because it was so different. All our tactics that we'd learned in Fangs for the Memories, like only explore 1 tile and then only do a second if that one's clear, don't work in this. You have to explore 2-3 tiles every time and then just try and pummel the enemies. It probably would be higher, but the difficulty spike on this one, well, obviously it made Alex rage quit. If you have a few bad dice rolls with the enemies, then you can get bogged down, and that will just cost you the scenario straight away. So it is a bit more luck dependent than any of the other scenarios because of that time element. And that's probably why it's sitting in at number 3 as opposed to potentially higher. The top 2 spots are secured by 2 of the guest writers. So we've got Treasure Fighting Monster Hunters, written by Matthew Jude at Death by Monsters. This one I really like because, again, it changed the whole treasure mechanic of the mission, because after the first story quest, all the chests you encounter from then on are treasure mimics who you have to fight and kill, and they're quite powerful. They're on a par with orcs, and with the amount of them, and then you've got orcs as well, made for some really interesting combat. But yeah, I remember when we recorded this one, we went in and Alex said, we've got to loot as much treasure as we can before we get to the first treasure chest, or the first story card, sorry, when all the later treasure chests will become mimics. And of course, the first exploration we did was the story card. So the only way we could get treasure for the rest of the mission was through the story elements. And also, one thing that was a massive thrill is it's the first time that you get an additional member in your party, and it's Thunder McScruggins, who's the alien who's unleashed these treasure critics, the big sort of shadow guy. You fight him earlier on in the campaign, I think in a little bit of tap dancing actually, but to have him as an extra character and controlling 5 was really exciting. It just changed up the tactics. It gave someone an extra job to do, and yeah, that was just really, really fun. And that was kind of expanded on in the winner. I say winner, it's not really a competition, but the number 1, my absolute favourite scenario in this campaign, A Stunning Day in the Dungeon, written by Alex and Ricky Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Maybe streams of bias, because obviously I have spoken at length on the channel in the past that Board Game Co. is one of the inspirations for the channel, really, and I'm a huge fan of his, so maybe that influenced me. But similar to the last scenario where you get a 5th party member, in this one there are 2 heroes at the end of the dungeon who are stunned, and you can add to your party basically. So you could control 6 heroes in the final battle. We were able to do that on camera, and it was so much fun. It's just more to think about. It's more tactics, more things open to using. And obviously I mentioned stunning. That was a whole new mechanic as well, where the Hedgecorn would stun your characters and knock them over, and you'd have to use another hero to try and wake them up so that they're back in the fight. And that was just so many layers of tactics that weren't necessarily in many of the previous scenarios. It was just really, really, really good fun. I suppose my one criticism of that scenario is the items you get as part of the story are quite obviously ripped straight out of Harry Potter. You get a golden snitch and an invisibility cloak, which doesn't really fit with a Hedgecorn, because I don't remember a Hedgecorn in Hogwarts anyway. But that's a very, very minor quibble if you're reading the Quibbler, if you're a Harry Potter fan. But yeah, that is my top 5 scenarios for CoraQuest so far. They have released an 11th one. We haven't got round to downloading that one. And I imagine they will be releasing lots more. I know they're working on an expansion at the moment. And one thing I'd be interested to see if they are able to collate a sort of area on the website, which they may already, I may have missed it, where fans and players can upload their own scenarios and campaigns. Because if you can get a fan creator community going, then that pretty much guarantees the life of the game forever. Because once you get a community like that going, people will always engage in it, and you'll basically have an infinite amount of content for an incredible small price. But that is this video. I will be going on to my review next time, so join me then to hear how I feel about the game as a whole. So thank you for watching, look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Bye-bye now.